episode 351. I will be talking about Impact Wrestling, Hard to Kill. Titles were on the line. We saw a couple of returns. The last rodeo concluded. And also talking about all the action that took place on WWE Friday Night Smackdown and AEW Rampage as well. Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And hello, wrestling fans. Welcome to 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And tonight got a whole lot of pro wrestling action and excitement to talk about tonight. So without any further ado, let's not waste any time. Let's just get into the hard-hitting action that was this night in pro wrestling. Impact Wrestling, Hard to Kill, live from Atlanta, Georgia, at Center Stage. The commentators for tonight, Tom Hannafan and the Drama King, Matthew Raywalt. Once again, great commentary team. Kind of underrated. These two actually I don't know if they really get as much of credit as these two deserve as being one of the great commentary teams in pro wrestling today. That's just my opinion, though. Hopefully you agree with me, because I think they deserve some credit. And on the Countdown show, we start things off with a 6-man scramble, Speedball, Mike Bailey, Alan Angels, Yui Uemura, Delirious, Mike Jackson, and making his return to Impact Wrestling, it is Kushida. And for the countdown match, this was very entertaining, I thought, actually. Kushida gets the win via submission, submitting Alan Angels. Good to see him back here in Impact Wrestling. And little spoiler from what I'm going to talk about later on. Impact isn't the only North American wrestling promotion we will see him in. More on that a little later on, though. Also on the countdown was the Impact Wrestling X Division Championship being defended. Trey Miguel taking out Black Taurus. And this one, wouldn't say this was anything real great, but pretty good match. Miguel gets the win with the spray paint and then the lightning spiral to retain the X Division Championship. Good match, though, from both these guys, especially for a countdown show match. This was pretty good. And then on to the main pay-per-view card, which started off very nice. We see the talent on the stage, and they have a 10-bell salute for Don West, and showing the same graphic they showed on Impact. Very nice of Impact for having the 10-bell salute, the tribute to Don West. And at first, I have to admit, I was surprised with the way this pay-per-view was starting, with the first match on the show being for the Impact World Championship, the Full Metal Mayhem match. Bully Ray versus Josh Alexander. I thought for sure that was going to close the show tonight. I did not expect that one to open up tonight's pay-per-view, but I'll talk more about that a little later on once I get to the match. That was the main event that did close the show. But let's get into it for the Impact World Championship Full Metal Mayhem. Bully Ray versus Josh Alexander. Bully Ray makes his entrance first, and then he goes to the back, and Josh Alexander making his entrance. Bully Ray gets him with a sneak attack from behind, and Josh Alexander busted open already before the match even starts. Then as soon as they get in the ring, Bully hits a power bomb through a table, and then the weapons we see: tables, chairs, a garbage can, a cheese grater, thumbtacks. And I just want to say about this match, it was a little different than I expected, because it's pinfall and submission. It's not the traditional ladder match like usually when they do have a Full Metal Mayhem match in Impact. Is Impact's version of TLC. Regular ladder match rules usually anyway, but this one, pinfall and submission. But I'm not going to complain too much about that though. And then there is a spot on the ramp. It's the one that goes all the way to the ring, and Alexander is on this huge ladder, gonna try a splash on Bully Ray through a table, but Bully Ray gets up, tips the ladder over, knocking Alexander into the ring onto a pile of thumbtacks. And we get some interference from Hotch and Skyler, and they hit a 3-man 3D into the thumbtacks, and then Tommy Dreamer makes his way to the ring. Looks like for a second or so anyway, that he is actually gonna join forces with Bully Ray, but that's just a trick. He nails Bully Ray with the garbage can. And goes for a Death Valley driver, but Bully counters that, spears Dreamer through a table. And we see Josh Alexander's wife, Jen, who they said was not supposed to be in the arena, her and her son, for safety, but she was there. At this time, Alexander is zip-tied to the ropes, and Bully is looking like he's going to attack Jen Alexander with the garbage can. He tells her to beg, tells her to give him her wedding ring, but then she hits Bully with a low blow, and then an acid drop, and then she unties the zip ties, freeing her husband Josh Alexander. And then Alexander once again goes for the splash off the ladder through a table, and Bully kicks out. But then he locks in the ankle lock, and Bully taps at 17 minutes, 1 second. Still Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion Josh Alexander. Like I said, I was surprised at first to see this open up the pay-per-view tonight, but great match. Still, between these two, of course, there was going to be a lot of carnage, brutality, the weapons. That's what you expect from a match like Full Metal Mayhem. Bloody. Didn't quite expect it to be quite as violent as it was. A little more violent than I expected. Bloody. But still great match. Josh Alexander, very impressive. Like I said, I think 2023, he is definitely going to be one of the big stars in pro wrestling this year. Definitely one to watch out for. And next up on Hard to Kill, the Impact World Tag Team Championships are on the line in a 4-way elimination match. The Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, taking on the major players, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, Rhino and Heath, the Bullet Club team represented by Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Another one, and I'm going to say this for, I'm sure, almost every match on this show, but very good match here. Definitely enjoyed this one. And the Bullet Club, Chris Bay and Ace Austin, very impressive in this match, I thought. And we see Cardona pin Rhino, eliminating him and Heath. And then Chris Bay pins Chris Myers. Sorry about that. Brian Myers, eliminating the major players down to the Motor City Machine Guns. And the Bullet Club is Chris Sabin pinning Chris Bay to get the win for the Machine Guns to retain the Impact World Tag Team Championships at 13 minutes 20 seconds. The Motor City Machine Guns celebrate their victory and they begin to walk up the ramp. But it is at that time we see Frankie Kazarian return to Impact Wrestling, and he's been competing for Impact a little bit lately, and AEW hasn't been doing anything at all really with him. And Kazarian announces that he has signed a long-term contract with Impact Wrestling. Not really too surprised though. Like I said, he's been working with Impact for a little bit lately, and AEW, I'm not even sure, but the last time he's been on Dynamite or Rampage, AEW hasn't done anything with him in a little bit. So I think the move to Impact is probably a good move for Kazarian right now. And he says he's back home. Next up, the Impact Digital Media Championship is now on the line. Moose versus Joe Hendry. Good match. This match was a little surprising, actually better than I thought it was going to be. Not that I thought it was going to be a bad match or anything, not at all, but really good match. 11 minutes, 7 seconds. Moose gets the digital media title, but that's just a distraction to take the referee's attention away. Moose hits a low blow on Joe Hendry for the win to become the new Impact Wrestling Digital Media Champion. Or that's what it looks like anyway. And then we see none other than Santino Marella. And he announces that he is, with Scott D'Amore out now, the new Director of Authority. Yep, that position is back. Longtime fans know back in the TNA days, that's what the Authority figure was. The Director of Authority, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and Vince Russo. They even had voting for it at Victory Road 2004 to see who was going to be the Director of Authority. And Santino restarts the match. And then Joe Hendry wins and retains the Digital Media Championship, 11 minutes, 52 seconds. So like I said, looks like we had a new champion in Moose, but then we see the new Impact Director of Authority, Santino Marella, making his return to Impact Wrestling. He's made a couple appearances, not as Santino, as Anthony Corelli, his real name, but is Joe Hendry still digital media champion here at Hard to Kill. Next up, the knockouts are in action. Number 1 contenders match. Deonna Purrazzo, Masha Slamovich, Taylor Wilde, and Killer Kelly. This one was, even though it was a 4-way match, kinda kept a little short. 8 minutes, 37 seconds. But still, I thought these 4 knockouts worked really well together. Slamovich gets the win, pinning Taylor Wilde. And there was a dual submission here, but Slamovich, picks up Wilde for a move, slams her, on Purrazzo and Killer Kelly to get the win. And they kind of talk about Slamovich could possibly be in line for a Knockouts title shot. Next up on Hard to Kill is Falls Count Anywhere in Atlanta. Steve Maclin and Rich Swann. This one, we see Raven on commentary, and then Gia Miller is in the back with Rich Swann. Maclin attacks him from behind, so the match starts back there. They brawl all over the back, then finally they out to the Impact Zone at center stage. And good match, which you would expect, Falls Count Anywhere or no DQ match. A lot of brawling on the floor. They get in the ring, use weapons, and then at that center stages, and they go to that one where there's an exit at that ramp. Maclin hits the KIA on it for the win, pins Rich Swann at 11 minutes 42 seconds. Our next match, Eddie Edwards taking on the Octopus Jonathan Gresham, recently making his return to Impact Wrestling. These two have a very nice match. Jonathan Gresham, glad to see him back on TV on a regular basis, or it looks like he's going to be now since he has signed with Impact Wrestling. Eddie Edwards gets the win with the Boston Knee Party at 18 minutes 54 seconds. and then the lights go out and we hear kind of like a thunderstorm or something, kind of like we did last night on Impact Wrestling. And I'm sure by this tease you could tell who it was going to be. I know I did last night on Impact, but it was none other than PCO, who a little while back when Impact was in Vegas, Eddie Edwards buried him. PCO comes back with a shovel and sand in his mouth. So I'm sure this is going to build up to a match between PCO and Eddie Edwards. And now it is time for the main event of the evening. They decided to put this on in the main event spot to close the show. The Impact Wrestling Knockouts Championship on the line. The conclusion of the last rodeo for Mickie James as she challenges Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts Championship. And we have the Matatoni Tribe perform a special entrance for Mickie James. And then we get Hardcore Country. And then the Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace makes her entrance. What a main event this was. These two Knockouts women wrestlers, whichever you want to call them, put everything into this match. A great main event. And like I mentioned earlier, at first I was surprised that it wasn't the world title Full Metal Mayhem match closing the show. But then I kind of thought about it. I don't know if it was going to be Mickie James losing, then for her career, why they wanted to put it on last, or in this case, great match, and then Mickie James picking up the win with the McDDT at 19 minutes 25 seconds, and big celebration. Her son Donovan, the rest of her family coming in to the ring to celebrate with her. Tara was there, the former Victoria, Lisa Marie Verone. She gets in very emotional, celebrating with Mickie James, the new Knockouts champion. So she is staying in Impact Wrestling for now. And just again, a fantastic main event between these two, Mickie James and Jordynne Grace. Mickie James, legend, definitely has had many, many great matches. That's no surprise, but Jordynne Grace, also very impressive in this match. Not just this match, but for a while in Impact has been very impressive. Great main event. So that was Impact Wrestling, Hard to Kill, and overall, for me, definitely a thumbs up. Great pay-per-view, in my opinion, and all I gotta say is I definitely recommend it. I don't know, in case you didn't watch it live, maybe you decide to watch Smackdown and Rampage live, and then maybe wanted to see some reviews or something, and then think about ordering the replay for Hard to Kill on Fight. And all I gotta say is, you won't regret it. Check it out on Fight TV or your local pay-per-view provider. It'll be well worth it. A great pay-per-view from Impact. And now we move on to WWE Friday Night Smackdown, live from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Commentators Michael Cole and Wade Barrett. And we kick things off on Smackdown this week with a match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship Braun Strowman taking on Gunther. Good match. And Braun Strowman has some special Green Bay Packer boots, which is for a good cause. For, I want to say maybe 2021 in Wisconsin at a Christmas parade, there was a tragedy there in Wisconsin, and a little boy unfortunately lost his life, and those boots will be auctioned off for a special charity, I believe, to benefit the victims and the families of that tragedy. Very nice from WWE and Braun Strowman to do that. And then on to the match. I thought this one was actually better than I would have expected. Nothing against either one of them, but this match better than I thought it would be. And Gunther defeats Braun Strowman to retain the Intercontinental Championship. And then in the back we see Sami Zayn, the honorary Uce, with the wise man Paul Heyman. No bloodline there tonight. And Paul tells Sami that Roman wants him to face Owens by himself tonight, and Zayn says he'll do it. And next up we see Rey Mysterio in the ring. Talks about the stuff that's going on with his son Dominic, and he wants to pretty much move on from that. He enters the Royal Rumble match, but then he is interrupted by Karrion Kross and Scarlett, which he disrespects Rey. Rey goes to attack him. They scrapple a little bit, and Kross ends up choking him out after Rey tries to go for the 619, but he is attacked by Scarlett, allowing Kross to get the advantage. So it looks like Rey's going to be in a feud with Karrion Kross to hold him off kind of till they get ready for the match, father versus son, Rey versus Dominic, which I'm guessing will take place at WrestleMania. I know I sound like a broken record, I keep saying that on the podcast, but that is what I think is going to happen. And then in the back we see Liv Morgan, and then the others there doubt her decision to be number one in the Rumble. And even Raquel Rodriguez, a babyface, kind of says she should more want to be the last one in. And especially with her size, kind of talking about how she's small. And Raquel Rodriguez, one of the biggest, strongest women in WWE. And then Liv slaps her, and those two will have a match tonight. But next, Xia Li and Tegan Nox. And these two have a pretty good match. Nothing real special, but good TV match. Tegan Nox gets the win with the world's shiniest wizard. And then we see Braun Strowman with the old Wyatt family rocking chair in the ring. And he says he is Uncle Howdy. He is Bray Wyatt. He is everything. And he says to LA Knight, when the lights go out, you should run. And that's it from Bray Wyatt this week. Kayla Braxton is in the back with Kevin Owens, and he is interrupted by Sami Zayn as they bicker back and forth a little bit. Women's action up next on Friday Night Smackdown. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And Liv Morgan kind of looks like this is going to be a kind of slow build for a heel turn. And at one point in the match, she even rams her head into the turnbuckle like she's losing it. And then they fight outside the ring. Liv gets a table, but then they go back in. Raquel Rodriguez gets the win, defeating Liv Morgan. And then in the back, Sonya Deville is with Adam Pearce. She wants a rematch with Charlotte Flair. Pearce says no, and Sonya says she will make that match official as we go to break. But then when we come back, Charlotte and Sonya are in a backstage brawl after Sonya attacks Charlotte. And then we get another video package on the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. And now, time for the main event of Smackdown this week. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. And if you remember earlier on in the night, Paul Heyman said the rest of the bloodline, the Usos, Solo Sikoa, they're not there. But then we see them show up anyway and attack Kevin Owens while Zayn is celebrating with the Usos. Sikoa puts him on the announce table, does a splash through it, but before that hits the Samoan spike. As pretty much now he is doing a lot of the stuff like as a tribute, which is good to Umaga. And I definitely see a bright side for Solo. And then that is how SmackDown ends this week. Actually, I thought SmackDown was very good, and normally after with WWE sometimes, and I watch another promotion, another show, it's like kind of, then watching WWE, there's kind of a letdown almost, but not tonight. I'm not saying that I thought SmackDown was as good as Hard to Kill or anything, but this episode of SmackDown I thought was actually pretty good. And now we move on over to TNT AEW Rampage, which was taped last Wednesday night after Dynamite in Los Angeles, California at the Fabulous Kia Forum. Our commentators for tonight, we have Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, and Chris Jericho, and it's nothing against any of the commentators, but I think a 4-man team is just too much. Sometimes I even think that a 3-man commentary team is a little too much, but that's just me. Unfortunately, we do get a 4-man team a lot of times on Rampage. And we kick things off for the AEW TNT Championship. Darby Allin versus Juice Robinson. Another wrestling show for tonight. The third one, or at least the third one that I watched anyway. Another kicking off with another good match. Just like the other two shows. Darby gets the win to retain the championship once again. And then we see Sting come out, celebrate with his partner. And next up is the next chapter in the Book of Hobbs. And next we get the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass Billy Gunn with the Submit wanting to put their hands on, or scissors, I should say. They want scissors to submit for the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And they're interrupted by the Guns, and they say they want to put their hands in to submit. Billy says okay to let him do it, as he turns his back and actually winks at Max Caster. And then when they start to do it, the Acclaimed pull their pants down, and then they turn around, Billy Gunn pushes them, and their butts go into the cement, leaving butt prints. Next on AEW Rampage, Renee Paquette is in the ring with, I think I got his name right now. If I'm wrong, you can leave it in the comments wherever you're listening. Paul Walter Hauser, who is the Golden Globe winner that we saw on Dynamite this past Wednesday night. And Danhausen talks about that how he was the biggest merchandise seller on shopaew.com last year, and he didn't even get a physical award. So he asked this Paul Walter Hauser for his Golden Globe, but then they are interrupted by Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Sanam Singh. And they attack Jarrett, or this Paul Walter Hauser actually cuts a very good promo on Jeff Jarrett. And the way he said it really sounds like he is a wrestling fan. And I know he said he was, but it sounds like he's a very passionate fan of pro wrestling. But then they end up attacking him. Sanam Singh holds and keeps Danhausen in the corner from helping him. And Jarrett hits him with a guitar. And then we see Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends make the save. And our main event is up next, or as Mark Henry would say, it looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event. Right here on AEW Rampage, a street fight, Ty Mello and Anna Jay representing the Jericho Appreciation Society against Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale. Great Rampage main event with this street fight. Soho is busted open pretty early. And then, of course, a lot of brawling, a lot of weapons. That's what you see in a street fight. And then Willow and Anna are at the top of the stage. And Willow hits a power bomb on Anna Jay through a table off the stage. And in the ring, Ty Mello hits Soho, through a table with a pile driver. And Ruby Soho, though, in the finish, hits the Destination Unknown, into the thumbtacks to pin Ty Mello and score the win for her team. She's a bloody mess at this point, but she gives Willow Nightingale a fist bump after the match to show some respect. So I think they're going to keep them as a team here in AEW. Great main event for Rampage. And that was this Friday night in pro wrestling. Had a lot of pro wrestling tonight. But luckily, it was a lot of great pro wrestling, in my opinion. To be honest, Smackdown, very good show. Rampage, also a very good show tonight. But Impact Wrestling, Hard to Kill, that was definitely my highlight of the night. Thumbs up show once again. And I recommend it if you did not get to see it tonight. Order the replay. You won't regret it. That would be a good decision on your part. If you missed it, definitely check it out. So that's all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you everyone for tuning in right here on Spreaker or wherever else you're listening to this podcast. Wherever you listen to your podcast, I appreciate you listening. Check in tomorrow with another new episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. And in case you haven't heard it or seen it yet, there's a new 360 unboxing, the AEW All Elite Crate, the Revolution Crate. You can listen to it right here on the same feed, or you can watch the video on the 360 Wrestling Podcast's YouTube channels. Check it out so you can actually see what's in the box. I won't spoil it just yet in case you want to go either listen to the audio version on this feed or on the YouTube channel if you want to watch it, or you can do both. Watch it on YouTube and listen to the audio version of the podcast as well, or unboxing I should say. Thank you for tuning in everyone. Again, I know I sound like a broken record, but I appreciate it very much. If you have any likes, questions, comments, or suggestions of Fanatic Unleashed, I hope to bring that back soon. Maybe even Watch With Me might return. Just stay tuned. 360 Wrestling Podcasts. All of them will be on this feed. And I'll let you know when the new episodes come out, when I decide to do them. Not only tomorrow, Good Morning Wrestling Fans. Remember that. Also, stay tuned for when there are new episodes of 360 Wrestling Fanatic as well. But it is close to 1:30. Well, not quite as late as I thought it might be. I did record Smackdown and Rampage while watching Hard to Kill, so I was able to skip the commercials, get done a little faster. So I'm going to go rest up. And then in the morning, on the way to work, Good Morning Wrestling Fans. Looking forward to talking to all of you then. But until next time, next episode, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.